Narrator. The year is 1144. In the ancient city of Edessa, the sounds of war echo through the streets. The once mighty bastion of Crusader power crumbles before a rising tide of Islamic resistance. For the first time since the holy warriors of Christendom captured Jerusalem, the Crusader dream begins to unravel. The fall of Edessa ignited a desperate response from Europe. Kings, emperors, nobles, and priests rallied behind the banner of the cross once more. But unlike the First Crusade, the Second would end not in glory, but in confusion, betrayal, and failure. This is the full story of the Second Crusade, Europe's lost holy war. Narrator. In the early 12th century, the county of Edessa stood as one of the most vulnerable Crusader states. It was remote, isolated, and surrounded by powerful Muslim neighbors. Edessa was established in 1098 by Baldwin of Boulogne during the First Crusade. It was the first Christian stronghold in the east. But its location made it a target. In late 1144, Imad ad-Din Zengi, the ambitious Atabeg of Mosul and Aleppo, launched a siege against the city. Zengi was determined, skilled, and ruthlessly strategic. After a short siege, Edessa fell on December 24th. It was the first major Muslim victory against the Crusaders. News of Edessa's fall reached the west in early 1145. Pope Eugenius III, alarmed by the collapse of one of Christianity's frontier cities, issued a papal bull titled Quantum Predecessors, the first official crusade bull in history. But the call alone was not enough. The First Crusade had succeeded in part because of widespread popular support and religious fervor. Now, the Church needed a powerful voice to inspire Europe once again. That voice came in the form of Bernard of Clairvaux. Narrator. Bernard of Clairvaux was the most influential spiritual leader of his time. A mystic, abbot, and reformer, he was also a master orator. When he began preaching the Second Crusade in France and Germany, thousands answered his call. His words painted the crusade as a divine mission, one that promised forgiveness of sins and eternal glory. Even kings heeded his voice. Narrator. Unlike the First Crusade, which was largely led by minor nobles and adventurers, the Second Crusade drew the direct participation of Europe's most powerful rulers. In France, King Louis VII was the first to take the cross. His motivations were partly religious, but also deeply political. He saw a crusade as a way to assert his power and influence. In Germany, Holy Roman Emperor Conrad III joined the cause, pledging to lead a separate army of German knights to the east. Narrator. Conrad's German army departed in May 1147, taking the overland route through Hungary and into Byzantine territory. Louis followed in June with a massive French army. Their journey would prove to be a disaster even before reaching the Holy Land. As Conrad's forces moved through Anatolia, they suffered repeated ambushes from the Seljuk Turks. The Battle of Dorylaeum in October 1147 was a devastating defeat. The German army, poorly supplied and unprepared for Turkish tactics, was nearly annihilated. By 1148, what remained of the German and French armies arrived in the Holy Land. In Jerusalem, they met with the local Latin rulers, Baldwin III and Queen Melisende. But their goals were no longer clear. Edessa, the original target, had been destroyed. Rebuilding it was not an option. Instead, the Crusaders chose a new objective, the city of Damascus. Damascus was one of the most important cities in the Islamic world. Ironically, it had previously cooperated with the Crusader states against Zengi. But political opportunism and the lure of conquest led the Crusaders to attack it. In July 1148, the Crusader armies besieged Damascus from the west, where the orchards and water supply gave them a strategic edge. But within days, the plan unraveled. The Crusaders inexplicably moved their forces to the arid, less defensible eastern side of the city. Historians still debate why. Some suggest bribes from Muslim leaders, others blame internal divisions. Whatever the cause, morale collapsed. Supplies ran low, and after just 4 days, the Crusaders abandoned the siege. It was a humiliating failure. The failure at Damascus shattered Crusader credibility. Emperor Conrad returned to Germany with a bruised ego. King Louis stayed longer in the Holy Land, but achieved little. Bernard of Clairvaux, who had promised divine victory, faced harsh criticism. He defended himself by blaming the sinfulness of the Crusaders, not the will of God. But the damage was done. Europe was left questioning the purpose and effectiveness of the crusading movement. While the Crusaders were divided and demoralized, the Muslim world was beginning to unite. Zengi's death in 1146 passed his legacy to his son, Nur ad-Din. A capable and visionary leader, Nur ad-Din consolidated control over Syria. Damascus, which had resisted Zengi, now willingly joined his son's growing realm. This unification laid the foundation for a future hero, Salah ad-Din Yusuf ibn Ayyub, known in the West as Saladin. Saladin would one day do what Zengi could not, retake Jerusalem. The Second Crusade was a turning point in the history of the Crusades. Unlike the first, it was led by kings and emperors, but failed due to ambition, mistrust, and poor planning. It weakened the Crusader states and emboldened their enemies. It revealed the deep fractures in Christian unity, both between East and West and within Latin Christendom itself. But it also marked the beginning of a new Islamic renaissance in the Near East, one that would challenge the Crusaders for generations to come. The Second Crusade was more than just a military campaign. It was a mirror reflecting the chaos, politics, and passions of the medieval world. It was a holy war born of fear, a journey shaped by ambition, and a failure that echoed across centuries. In its defeat, new powers rose, and the road to Jerusalem remained open for blood, for faith, and for destiny.